I have not posted a video in a little while, and that's mainly because I am moving in with my partner now. I've finished university, so I'm now in the painful process of getting all my stuff moved in, and we're looking forward to it. But it's made me very busy, so I haven't managed to make as much content as I would have liked. But I did get to attend, and I did help set this up. But I did get to attend a pretty awesome event in Sheffield at Patriot Games. An amazing store, lots of space, wonderful place to come play Pauper if you're in the UK at any point. And we were running our first ever Monarch event, hopefully the first of many because this one went down pretty sweet. Um, had some assistance from the amazing Pauper Dan on Twitter at Pauper Dan. He has ran a lot of the Northern Pauper Opens. Well, he ran all of the Northern Pauper Opens in the UK, and a lot of different events helped kind of grow the scene in Leeds. And just a massive, and completely like encapsulates what is amazing about Pauper. Just a big part of our UK community. And he was helping me set things up with the store owners, and this was a great event. We managed to get 36 players, which for our first Pauper event, like a larger one, I was extremely happy to get more than 32. So 36 for our first. Let's try and hit 64 next time. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, we had people from all across the country come and play Pauper. And I'm going to kind of break down the meta game, break down the decks that did well. You can kind of see some of the things here. But myself and some of the other people who play at Sheffield, we play as a team. We have a small team, and there were other Sheffield players here that I will talk about too. But my team were testing and just kind of, we were really excited for a more competitive Pauper event. So I want to run through our deck list first. So let's go ahead and look at Luke's list. So Luke was playing what we have called Lizard Twin, and I've spoken a little bit about Brood Scale on this channel. In fact, I actually did the video with Luke. I'll make sure that's linked in the end card about Brood Scale combo and the other decks we thought would be good in MH3. And we put our money where our mouth was. We tested this one out. So we were testing a lot of Brood Scale, which, if you don't know how the deck works, it's a combo deck based around Basking Brood Scale, which whenever you put one or more plus and plus encounters onto it, lets you make an Eldrazi spawn that you can sacrifice to make a colorless mana. And you pair that with this enchantment here, Sadistic Glee, which says whenever a creature is put into the graveyard from play, you can put a counter onto the enchanted creature. So you get the Glee onto the Brood Scale, you can make infinite mana, and then you have lots of draw spells, draw Thoughtpicker Witch, and completely exile your opponent's library. They lose. You obviously can make an infinitely big creature too. So we tested this a whole bunch. We tried a bunch of different versions of Brood Scale, but hilariously, the list that Luke took on the day was, I think it was 2 days before the event. We were having sort of like a big group get together. We played some Pauper and we're just testing some deck ideas out. And I was saying I wasn't a big fan of the current build that we had, the one with the Snarling Gorehound that was featured in the video before. And excuse me. I kind of put this together on a whim whilst Luke was testing a different deck, because Luke was thinking of taking Grixis initially, and kind of put this together. We refined it a little bit together as a team, just the couple of us, but we ended up settling this. So Luke ended up playing this Brood Scale deck. I'll link the deck list in the description. And yeah, you can see we cut down on a lot of the weird stuff and kind of just put a ton of draw spells in there, a ton of rocks, and just tried to kind of combo off as fast as possible. So that's what Luke took to Monarch. So our next team member, Amit, was really excited about the new energy cards in MH3. Really excited to try them, and they look pretty sweet. So you can see this is a pretty stock Jeskai Ephemerate list, except we've cut some of the Preordains and a Brainstorm for some Tune the Narratives, and instead of Scred and Bolt, we're playing Galvanic Discharge, which is kind of like Scred. You get to pay an amount of energy to do that much damage to a creature, and it makes 3 itself. Tune the Narrative is just a cantrip that makes some energy as well. So it's kind of like your typical Jeskai Ephemerate list that is running this energy package, which it makes you a little bit more resilient to removal, and gives you more powerful removal sort of in the early game. Interestingly, this is marked as a legacy deck here. Let's change that one quickly. There we go. But yeah, It's what you'd expect to see: Ephemerates, Maul Drifters, Mystics, Kenkus, Bridges, and the fantastic Cleansing Wildfire to ramp. Amit has not been playing much Pauper recently. He's been kind of busy with live stuff. We've all been kind of busy with live stuff, but they perform really well on this deck, and Amit is one of the most like naturally talented Magic players I think I've seen in a while. They just kind of pick up a deck, play it extremely well. It's their fundamentals are great, so they just picked this up, played it completely well. And I think if they had more like matchup knowledge and testing with a deck ahead, because we didn't get much time to test with Amit, I think they definitely could have done a lot better. I mean, still did well, but I think they lost some games due to not having practiced the deck more, which, you know, pretty tough beats, but they played amazingly, and I really like this list. It's pretty good. I'm still not massively sold on Tune the Narrative, but I understand that it's sort of a role play in the list. But that was the list here. Pretty typical stuff. Archaeomancer, Ephemerate loops, blowing stuff up. Our third team member is Nathan. Now, Nathan is a mono-red wizard. I have not seen a single person that plays mono-red play mono-red as well as Nathan does. This guy is just insanely good with mono-red. It's scary. So yeah, it's pretty stock, to be honest. You know, you've got your mix of creatures here. No Swift Spear, unfortunately. One Fire Blast. The thing that is the most interesting is probably these two Tectonic Hazard in the main. Now, this is kind of because Sneaky Snacker is extremely good and played very vastly. It's also pretty good against the turn 1 elves that are going around right now, the Mana Dorks, because, you know, you've got like Arbor Elves going around. There's a couple elf players too. And the last thing that's a little bit spice is the Raise in the sideboard. This is kind of like an anti-Ponza tech. If they Utopia sprawl their land and you blow it up, they pretty much lose on the spot on a lot of matches. So yeah, kind of a stock mono-red list, kind of what you'd be expecting. Got synthesizers, bolts, blasts, fire blasts, cool dothers and such. But yeah, just a solid deck played by a really great player, and they did very well. So nothing more to really say than that. My deck, I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't know what to play because I'd been playing obviously a ton of core gates. You saw some of that on the channel. I'd played a lot of familiars, and then MH3 came out. Writhing Chrysalis was printed, and it turns out Writhing Chrysalis is insanely good against this deck because it is colorless and has reach, and makes extra blockers. So like, the blockers can sack themselves, so you can't gain life with your lifelinkers. The reach blocks the Squadron Hawks, and it's not colored, so Guardian doesn't do anything. So it just like kind of completely blanks the whole deck. And like into Ponza, it used to have an okay matchup. It used to be fine. This made it a lot worse. Core Gaze isn't amazing against like fast combo decks, and there were a lot of those too. And like Elves and Boggles, they're all just hard matchups because you don't have sweepers. So to be honest, everyone on the team was saying, don't take this. I kind of had an identity crisis. I didn't know what to take. So I just took what I was comfortable with and kind of settled into having a bit more of a fun time than trying to win so much. And I was very tired on the day. I made a lot of mistakes. But I really do love Core Gates. It is one of my favorite decks. Just the way you get to play Magic is so fun. Like Brainstorm, when you get to draw 3 off of it, is amazing. But yeah, I had an okay performance. I think I could have done better. I made some misplays due to being tired and not really being fully focused. But I had a really good time either way. Just the Pauper community is so great, right? So things were pretty chill. But yeah, my sideboard's pretty stock, although I was expecting like a lot of Boggles and stuff, and maybe, you know, Boggles. So chuck some Standard Bearers in the sideboard. I call it a day. Otherwise, it's pretty typical. Got a split of Hydras and Blue Blast because, I'm going to be honest, why not? If you have both, why not play them? But yeah, that's what I ended up taking. And then Xander wasn't really sure what to take, kind of pivoted last minute, and I gave them my Rakdos Madness deck to try. And the way that Xander picked this deck up so fast was really interesting because me and Xander are pretty control players. We tend to play control in pretty much every format we can. We like our blue black or blue white nonsense. But like Xander really picked this deck up super fast. It looks really cool. Sneaky Stacker in Madness is awesome. My little tech here is playing Fodder Tosser. I love this card. We aren't really sure if it's good, but yeah, they kind of picked this up almost on a whim, played it extremely well, and piloted it very well on the day too. I think this is quite a stock list, except for the Fodder Tosser. Most people are playing too high with robberies, but I simply refuse to put more than one copy of this card in. I think it's terrible. I really don't like it when, especially now that a lot of the blue decks are getting pushed out the format by Ponza, which is not something that I thought I'd be saying post MH3. But yeah, the sideboard's got some land destruction, again, for Ponza and decks like Familiars and things in case they show up. Trespasser's Curse is really good against, like, you know, Elves and Mogwarts, Broodscale, all those sorts of combo decks. Really respecting Boggles here with the Extract the Confessions, and no Red Blasts, which I think is a good choice, by the way. I don't think you want to play Red Blast in a deck like this. But yeah, pretty sweet deck. Xander did pretty great. And that's our team's decks. Alright, so we should go ahead and take a look at the decks that were played then at Monarch. So we'll look at the metagame breakdown here. So first of all, you can see Rakdos Madness was the big winner on the day with 17% meta share. Mono Red Kuldotha and Jeskai Ephemerate both being at 9%. And then Elves and Boggles, Borosynth, Ponza, Wars, and Grixis all at 6%. And then you've got some other decks lower down. So there was like one Fog player, one Fairies player, I think two Broodscale players actually. Just a little bit of extra spice. We'll kind of go over the things. I think looking at the most played cards is always really interesting. They're all red. Completely red for the first 7, if you count Great Furnace as red. So Bolt, Breath Weapon, Gelv Blast, Red Great Furnace, Cast into the Fire, Gorilla Shaman, and then Pyroblast. They're the 7 most played cards in the tournament altogether. And then Nihilist Spellbomb is 8th, and then Epicure is 9. So of the top 10, 2, I guess 3 are artifacts, and the rest are red cards. I think that's super interesting. We can go ahead going from the bottom up here. So our first player, Johnny, played Turbo Fog. Not an amazing run, went 1-5 in the end. Playing a pretty interesting Turbo Fog list. I haven't seen many Turbo Fog lists splashing for red before. Maybe it's sort of like a meta call for Elves and things. You can see Red Blast in the sideboard. Maybe they were expecting more blue decks. I don't think there were many blue decks in total. Really, it was kind of just the Jeskai players and me on a lone mission to try and, you know, bring some glory to blue, but it wasn't doing too good for us. But yeah, pretty stock. Trying to, you know, stall the game out, mill the opponent out with a replicated Stream of Thought. And then after that, you've got a Madness list. Matthew, who's a Sheffield regular, struggled a little bit, but they were playing their Reanimated deck they've been working on for a little bit. This one's very field dependent. I feel like with so much Ponza going around, running so few lands, this one's probably quite a difficult one to get going. But the idea is that you Dread Return or Exhume in one of these big guys and just kind of kill your opponent before they get to do anything. Pretty cool. Kind of scooting through some of these, we had an interesting Gardens list. So this was like a Golgari Gardens list, but it was running Sneaky Snacker as like a one-off blue card and Blue Elemental Blast in the sideboard. Otherwise, it's just pretty stock kind of Gardens. Pretty similar to my Primer, not entirely the same. There's some interesting stuff there. Like only 2 Tithing Blades, for example, and like a split on Lembus and Ichabod Spring. The main deck Drown. Lots of interesting choices here, but the same sort of 18 lands. 2 Trolls instead of 3. And a Bounce Land. Not sure how I feel about the Bounce Land right now, but yeah, kind of like a fairly stock list. But you know, with the 1 blue fetch instead of the 1 red fetch that I normally play. And yeah, like a fairly stock, except from the fact that you got Sneaky Snack as like a recursive win condition. So, you know, you're casting these and then when they die, you can sack them to Deadly Dispute, bring them back, hit the opponent, sack them, bring them back. Just a recursive threat that kind of gets games closed. It's an interesting idea. Might have to try something like this. Fortunately, it seemed like the player was struggling with draws here. They went 0-3 and 3, so really struggling to kind of close games out in time. And then as we kind of continue up, got Elves, Wars combo, mono red, Ponza, 1 Ponza down here on the bottom. I believe there were 2 Ponza players. The deck is quite swingy, very 50-50. You can see this player didn't do too well here. Although I know this player is quite a good player. I believe they won, or no, they came second at the last NPO playing Demir Fey. Fortunately, that deck is not too competitive at the moment. Then you've got more like classic stuff: Borrow Synth, Burn, Madness, Synth, Madness, and then hilariously, the only two people brave enough to register Basking Brood Scale were both right next to each other. Both went 3 and 3. So let's pull their lists up here. This is Luke's list here. Let's see what Tom was playing. Let me find it one more time. Here it is. So you can see this one's quite a bit different to the one that we took as a team. So this one's running red and Krat Clan Shaman. So you're a bit better against those Swarm decks. And you're playing Chrysalis as like a mid-range plan. So this is also using Cleansing Wildfire. And it's trying to be like a mid-range deck with an A+B combo. Sort of like a Splinter Twin situation. So it's, you know, it's like a mid-range deck that also has a combo that instantly wins the game in it, and then you get access to like Pyroblast and better sideboard cards. So it's interesting, and I guess we can't really tell which one was correct or the strongest here because both players did fairly well. And then you've got some more Madness, Mono Blue Tron. This was an awesome deck played by Thomas, who plays in Sheffield as well every now and then. I actually got to play against them. I did win that match, but it was very close. There was a really interesting sort of like build here. So you've got your, obviously, Urzalans, the thing the deck is named after, but a really cool Trinket Mage package here to pick up Spell Bomb, Campfire, Candy Trail, and expedition maps. So like you get to basically tutor for things that you think will be useful, and it's just trying to leverage all that extra mana to play cards like Condescend and Repeal, which are bounce and counter spells that let you scry. Really cool stuff. And then, you know, playing big guys like Mirror Shell Crab, Muldrifter, and Self-Assemblers, which grab themselves. Just a really cool take on Tron. I really like this deck. I think it has some potential, potentially. You might see me playing this soon, kind of when I've moved in and got more settled in. But yeah, love that deck. Love the Campfire, of course, as the Campfire's biggest lover. You can see just above Tom, me and Amit also went 3 and 3. So not our most amazing performance of all time, but we did, you know, okay. Right above us, Holly. Holly is amazing at deck building. Like Holly's deck building always completely baffles me, and then I get completely shocked and destroyed when we play at locals by some of the things that they come up with. It's like a mono blue Fey deck. It's not completely stock though. We got an Azure Fleet Admiral main, some Judges Familiars, as well as this card, Trailblazer's Torch. Now, I absolutely love this card. It is a 4-mana equipment that takes the initiative when you play it, and then if you can equip it for 1, and when the equipped creature becomes blocked, you do 2 damage to each creature blocking it. So pretty good if you're trying to get a ninja through and they've only got small blockers and things. Otherwise, it's pretty typical. You've got your like Obel Mine, Spell Pierce, Snaps, Counter Spells. The sideboard's got 14. Yeah, sorry, only 14 cards instead of 15. Holly just didn't need the 15th card. Too good. And they have 4 Utter Insignificance, some more of the Initiative and Monarch things, some Anors and Hydros. So yeah, pretty interesting list. A good take on Mono Blue Fey. Did all right, 3 and 3 into the meta. I think Holly managed to make top 16. Yes, they were the first one in the top 16. Just missed out there on breakers, it seems. A lot of 3-3s overall. Miles was playing a similar list to Amit, like a Jeskai Energy Ephemerate. And we'll kind of go through some of these. Borrow Synth, there's Zanderlook, top 16 with Madness. Mono Blue Terror with a bunch of like land bounce spells. Kieran, who is an amazing guy, just another community leader in Sheffield, playing Jeskai Ephemerate, but forego all of that energy nonsense and just played the good old Bolt and Scred package with another braid. Kind of like a more traditional Jeskai list, but with Preordains. Love that. I think Preordain is amazing. Much prefer Preordain to Tune the Narrative, that's for sure. And then some Godfarers on the side, some spice. But as we kind of keep going up, we got Dan that I was talking about at the start on Boggles, and just missing narrowly out on top 8, one of my other buddies, James. James has played in many events now, like the rest of us have, and progressively they continue to get better results every single time, going from almost coming dead last to almost making top 8. So I'm expecting James to win the next one on a pretty stock list as well, pretty similar to Xander's list, except you've got that second highway robbery instead of the fodder tosser. Sideboard a little bit different, but not too different there from like the one that I believe won Pauper. I think that's where we saw a lot of madness, because it just wouldn't get in. But now we get into the interesting stuff now. So this is the top 8 here. So I'm not sure the exact top 8 standings after the Swiss. This is just the top 8 standings after the actual quarters, semis, and finals. So a new addition to our team and a close friend of mine, Ryan. They were playing my Grixis list, actually, that I love this list. It's playing counter spells. Otherwise, it's got your typical stuff, but it's got Sneaky Stacker. A lot of people are not a big fan on Stacker and Grixis, but I think it's great. 2 Krark Clan, which is obviously pretty good into all the elves and things that were present, all the combo decks, creature combo decks. They can't really beat that card. And then, Deadly Dispute, Scale Blast, Cast Down, your normal stuff. You've got like all your draw spells, keep bringing the stackers back. 20 lands, pretty stock sideboard. Just a really solid list. They hadn't really played this deck much, but they were able to get it done right into top 8. And I think that their loss in the mirror was very unlucky. Then if they had played the deck for more than like two minutes of testing before, I think they could have definitely gone even higher up the standings than they managed to. The next list is like a Jordanescu red blitz deck by Z. They're playing Festival Crasher, Kiln Fiends, and then the Heroic Creatures. Just a bunch of like cantripping burn spells and pump spells. I'm just trying to get the game closed as soon as possible. No Lotus Petals or anything, but just, trying to get out a cheap creature and pump it up and swing in for loads. A solid strategy. It seemed like being a combo deck or being aggressive was really good in this meta. Another Sheffield player here, Owen. Owen is our resident Wars player. They play Wars a bunch. They play it pretty well, and they obviously did extremely well today. They obviously did extremely well here. So first thing you might notice is lands. 8 lands. You go, what the hell? Yeah, but we do have 4 land grants, so kind of a 12 lands, and I think there's 4 generous ents too, so we're really closer to sort of like 16ish lands. You could probably call it like 12 and a half lands. But yeah, super low to the ground, loads of creatures. If you don't know how wars work, I'll probably play it on the channel soon. We're trying to pair Axebane Guardian with Galvanic Alchemist or Freed from the Real to tap and untap it to make infinite mana, and then we'll find some way to win, like shooting our opponent for infinite damage. But yeah, they play this deck very well. They played it a lot. They know it inside and out, and they were very unlucky to lose to Ponza in the quarterfinals. In the semi-finals. But yeah, a really cool list. Playing one Nyxborn Hydra, I love this. Sometimes you just slap it onto like a Llanowar Elf and make it like a 30-30 with Trample, and you just hit them and they die. It's extremely good if you can make lots of mana but not infinite. But yeah, that was an interesting list. They're on third passive on, that's it, the one that draws cards rather than Vivian's Grizzly. So that lets you be a little bit more explosive, but you do need to get blue, so it can be harder to deploy, but it is tutorable. And then Nathan, there they are. They managed to make the top 8 here. A very unfortunate loss to Elves, I think it was. The actual person that won the event, they after the matches, they were saying their hands were like extremely good. They just need to find like one land or like one more piece, and they were basically going to win the game on multiple games. It just kind of happens sometimes. You're running hot earlier, and then you kind of don't manage to quite get there in the end. But yeah, they did great. Just narrowly missing out on the top 4 there. And then looking at our top 4 then, the victor of the Grixis Mirror in the Cup for top 8 was Jamie Wilson on a different version of Affinity. So this one has foregoed the counter spells and the sneaky snackers to play a couple metallic rebukes, some extra draw spells, and a main deck unexpected fangs, as well as one serpent. Not sure how I feel about the fangs. It's kind of an interesting take. And there was quite a bit of burn, so I think it must have come up a lot. I think they said that it came up when I spoke to them afterwards. And they got another fangs in the sideboard. Otherwise, it's kind of, Grixis, it's got, the same cards you would expect. Mirror Enforcers, Familiars, Snackers. This one's not Snackers, sorry. What am I saying? Serpents. And this one's got Blood Fountains, but 3 Blood Fountains, so really resilient to removal there. Lots of ways to draw. I'm not sure about only having 4 Forecast. This is like one of the best cards in the deck. Not having the 4th one to me is really like a really interesting deck building choice. I hadn't spoken to them about this. I didn't realize they were only playing 3, but I'd love to know if they see this or if anyone knows why they're on 3 and not 4. It's a really interesting number. I don't know. I feel like when I build a Grixis, I always go 4 Dispute, 4 Thoughtcast, 4 Mirror Enforcer. Let's go from there. So yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, look, I think in the mirror, I was catching some of it. I was watching the top 8, and Munitions just absolutely shreds in like so many matchups. It looked like it made that mirror really hard, really good against Snacker. So seems like that was kind of the difference maker there. And then the last of our team members in the list here, James. James is a professional top decker. I've never known a more lucky person in my life. And then you combine all that luck with just a really talented player anyway. And then you put them on like the biggest RNG deck in the format, and yeah, they just absolutely roll people. Like I was watching James play whenever I'd finish my matches or whatever, if they were still playing, because they were winning really fast, to be honest. But yeah, like putting James on Ponza, James was just absolutely just rolling people. It was not fair. Blowing up their lands and then playing Altasaur. And I think against one of our friends, James went Altasaur into Boarding Party, which hit Avenging Hunter 2 games in a row, in like back to back. So, I mean, if you can roll high roll like that, you do win. But pair that with skill, it makes it extremely hard for you to win. Yeah, I mean, I think we were a bit ahead of the curve on this one. We put this list together kind of as a team. James did a lot of the innovating on it, though. But they kind of came to this conclusion and this sideboard a little bit before like a lot of the grinders started playing it. So like the Bolts, the Glamours, Nylea's Disciples, and a little bit ahead of the curve here with this one, I think. And this list performed really well. So a very good deck. Although unfortunately, if you look at the top 8, not really the best positioned. Like you beat Grixis really easily, but Red, Wars, Red, and Boggles and Elves are all like terrible matchups. So getting 3rd is pretty impressive. Hats off to James. James just always performs really well in these sort of like tournaments. So yeah, it was amazing to see. Really cool to see one of the team members get the top 8, and just everybody doing well in general. Everyone went at least positive, so that was awesome. And then one of our Sheffield players, our locals, who is the #1 Toadstool admirer now, James. Now, a different James to the previous one. There's a lot of Jameses in this tournament, it seems. But James has a pretty cool Boggles list here on a landscape mana base instead of Ash Barrens. Really like that. I think it's good, especially with so much Ponza going around. And then, yeah, cutting the Sylvana Ledgewalkers for Toadstool Admirers, just because going fast in this meta is amazingly, just really good. Going under people is fantastic. So just having a 1-drop creature instead of a 2-drop creature is really cool. And most decks aren't interacting anyway. And if they are, they don't really have cheap interaction or free interaction like Snuff Out right now. So the Ward 2 is almost hex-proof for most of the game, for as long as you're expecting to go. Otherwise, it's kind of like a normal Boggles deck. You've got, Utopia Sprawls, your Abundant Growths, and then the big enchantments like Ancestral Mass, Armadillo Cloak, Ethereal Armor. Obviously, all the glitters got banned for the Sins of Affinity, so you can't play that here anymore. But the big card from Boggles is this Malevolent Rumble. Malevolent Rumble is just amazing. In Boggles especially, it's kind of like an impulse that lets you make Edict fodder, which is one of the biggest weaknesses of the deck, just getting edicted to death. So being able to make Edict fodder and have card selection in a deck that didn't have either of those things very reliably before, really awesome. And we see one Nyxborn Hydra here as well as a trample enabler, but also just a way to pump a creature, and if it does die, you get another creature on the back end, so not even terrible. Kind of like it. Just more things you can hit off your Malevolent Rumble. In fact, I'm pretty sure you only play permanents in the main deck other than Malevolent Rumbles. They hit literally everything in your deck except themselves. The sideboard is really interesting. It's very like thorough, kind of covers a lot of stuff. You've got Flaring Pains for like Core Gates and Fog, Ram Throughs for like those Ephemerate decks, Spirit Link for Burn, Standard Bearer for the Mirror and like Core Gates again, Safekeeping for if your lands are being blown up by Ponza, I assume. Also to protect your enchantments against decks that are running this card, Thraben Charm. This is a really cool one. I wasn't expecting to see this in Boggles, but it looks really pretty decent. It can be a removal spell. It can hit enchantments, which is good against the Ponza decks and in the mirror right now. It can exile graveyard, so you can be less weak to some of those like fast graveyard combo decks. And then finally, we got two Young Wolves just as an Edict protection card against the black deck. So there wasn't any like Blade decks at all. Really surprising. But yeah, this deck was really well constructed. I know James has been working on it for quite a long time, and I was really happy to see them do really well. They narrowly missed out on the finals. Unfortunately, they had to play against Dan Turner's Elves. This list is a little spicy. It's not like a normal Elves list that I've seen, really. But Elves and Boggles, pretty bad matchup. But yeah, the finals pretty brutal, unfortunately. You can see, instead of splitting like Llanowar Elves, I think Teasdale mentioned this in their podcast, which you should go and listen to if you haven't, Casting Commons. Just go for 4 Llanowar Elves. Sometimes they split it up, like two Llanowar, 2 Findhorn, 2 whatever the elf is called, Elvish Mystic or whatever. But no, just straight up just slamming 4. Don't even worry about it. But yeah, a lot of the creatures are kind of normal, like 4 Birchlaw for Vanguard. The thing that was kind of weird here that Teasdale pointed out is only having 3 Timberwatch Elf. That's super weird to me. Again, I think Teasdale was confused as well. Feels like if you have a Timberwatch Elf and you survive like that turn, you pretty much guaranteed win the next turn. So not playing the full 4 is an interesting choice. I'd love to hear kind of where like that mentality comes in. We've also only got 3 Nettle Sentinels and only 2 Lisalana Huntmaster. And the really interesting part is 4 You Meet in a Tavern. Now, I think this card is good. People have been playing this as like an overrun, and it's also like a Winding Way. But as you'll notice, there is not a Winding Way in this deck at all. Instead, we've completely replaced them with You Meet in a Tavern, and we have Distant Melodies as well to just draw loads. Now, when this gets going, it's very sick. But yeah, really interesting like draw spells here, but obviously worked out really well for them. Maybe in this like more greedy meta game, you don't need to be as low to the ground. You can just kind of splash with these like more expensive cards and not worry about it. Like a lot of the removal decks and the blue decks were not really around in this tournament, and just in the Pauper in general right now, post MH3. So maybe you can get away with being more greedy. I kind of like it. The sideboard, 4 Blue Blasts for those red decks. Red gives you quite a bit of trouble. The Glamour, Prohibit, more counter spells just for protection. For against the decks that are trying to bring in like 1 damage board wipes, Spider Silk Armor just kind of like makes those look terrible. The Reach is good against like Core Gates and things as well that are trying to race you and fog you out. Valakut Invoker for again against like fog decks or if you need to kill stuff. More Well Wishers for burn, and then a Rapid Vigor just as another board wipe protection. But yeah, a really solid list. Congratulations to Dan, who managed to take down the first Monarch event. And yeah, this event was a load of fun. I had a lot of fun playing. I know a lot of people enjoyed it. The location was great. It was just good to see a lot of the players in the community kind of come together and spend time just playing Pauper. Hopefully the next one can be even bigger and even better. We can get more people. I'd like to stream some of the games too. I'll try and put those up on my YouTube channel and get more like in paper recording. That's something I want to work on as well. But that's sort of the Monarch meta breakdown. This is like a kind of like just a more rambling video talking about the event that went on. When I finish moving, hopefully by the end of next week, I'll be able to kind of start start putting more videos together and putting out maybe more like league content, and I'm going to talk about some decks and things. So if you have things you would like to see, like video ideas or like deck breakdowns that you want, or things you want me to try, like deck lists you want me to try, drop them in the comments. I'll be reading them. I'll try and respond to everybody. And yeah, thank you so much. I'll link the tournament in the description if YouTube will let me link things yet. It's being a bit funny about that. But thank you very much. Again, a massive shout out to Dan, who helped me so much with setting up this event. A massive shout out to the Patriot Games team, who were running like the store owners and the people that were on the shop floor today, kind of helping us out. A big shout out to Mark Pinder, who was our head judge and kind of helped create the Sheffield Pauper player base long before I kind of moved to Sheffield for university, and kind of help cultivate that scene. And it's been amazing working with like Dan, the Patriot guys, and Mark all together to try and get more of these events going on. And then finally, big shout out to the rest of my team Too Many Cooks. They're all amazing guys. I had loads of fun testing with them, and I think they'll be playing. A lot of them will be playing at the IPT in London at Badger. So if you are in the UK, you want to play a more competitive Pauper, Badger store in London have paired up with the LPI, the Liga Pauper Italia, and they are running an international Pauper tour in London at Badger. I believe it's the 20th of July. I'd have to check that one. I don't know if that's correct, but they're running the Blood Prep Brawl, I believe it's called. Just a big tournament there. You can win buys at Paupergeddon. So if you like Pauper, you're in the UK, would super duper recommend checking that one out. And beyond that, I hope that you're all well. I've not disappeared. I'm just away for a moment. I'm getting life sorted out, and thank you very much for watching.